Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Today on Squawk Pod. Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday, Travel Tuesday. Shopping season is in full swing. Small business owner Caroline Weaver operates the Locavore in New York.
Local doesn't just mean cottage industry goods. It means actually manufactured things.
And a big picture conversation on the market and regulation themes of 2025 with economist Mohamed El-Erian.
We are captivated right now, understandably, by two things. Will they cut this month or not? And who will be the next Fed chair? As important is how will this Fed be reformed? This Fed went to sleep.
Plus, the rest of today's news. Nvidia taking another $2 billion stake, this time in Synopsys. Airbus says it has fixed all its planes affected by a safety alert. And a new Fed chair has been picked, but we still don't know who it is. Is it a Kevin?
But Kevin is the male Karen, supposedly.
Really? I just call the male versions Karen, too.
Yeah.
It's Monday, December 1st, 2025. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Becky by in 3, 2, 1. Cue, please.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. I'm Becky Quick along with Joe Kernen, and this is Squawk Box.
You could use mine. It's over there.
Let's see.
You're
I'm
Becky.
Becky Quick along with Joe Kernen.
Yeah.
And Andrew's off today.
Are we allowed to show the whole set?
Yeah, I think so.
No.
Yes.
Holy moly.
Last week, things were so strong, in fact, that it actually moved both the S&P 500 and the Dow into positive territory, which was pretty impressive because for the month, it looked like they were going to be down pretty significantly. The NASDAQ was still down by about 1.5%.
How'd you know that? Because, okay, listen.
I just knew
take a shot of me. Take a shot of me, and you can read my teleprompter. Her teleprompter's down. Becky's is.
November.
So I'm going to do reaction shots.
Okay.
And you read.
November, it was down. The NASDAQ was down by 1.5% in November. It broke a 7-month winning streak. Both the Dow and the S&P 500 posted small monthly gains. It was their 7th straight positive month. 7 in a row.
Okay.
But again, they only pulled it off on Friday because as of Friday morning before trading started, both of those averages were down for the month as well. Thank you, Joe.
What do you think the better way to do it would be?
What?
To pretend like nothing's wrong and no one knows anything,
Probably.
and like professionals, or
you could
to
have
bring
like us.
people into what we do and what our life is all about, and to involve the viewer in issues like when you don't have some people, if they don't have a teleprompter, they just stop. They have no idea. Right.
Darren had that.
I stop when I have a teleprompter because I don't like it. But I'm going to read this now. Mine's fine. Mine is fine, but yours looks like it's working. President Trump, as we said at the top of the...
Well played.
Anyway, you know what I'm going to say. I'm finished. No, he says he's made his choice on the next Fed chair. Speaking with reporters on board Air Force One, the president said he knows who he's going to pick to succeed Jay Powell.
Fed chair, are you any closer on that right now?
I know who I'm going to pick. Yeah.
Ooh, tell us. Kevin Hassett.
I'm not telling you. We'll be announcing it. Thank you very much.
Is it Hassett?
That seems to be the front runner at this point. Hassett was on over the weekend.
There's his picture. When asked if his selection was Kevin Hassett, the National Economic Council director, the president said he wouldn't tell reporters that have put Hassett in the lead to succeed. Some reports have. Powell. Here's Hassett, though, on CBS's Face the Nation. That was yesterday.
I'm really honored to be amongst a group of really great candidates. The thing that I was most impressed about this week when that story leaked was that really, I think the news for markets was that President Trump is close to announcing a new person who's going to replace Jay Powell. And if you look at the market response to that, it was very, very positive. We had a great Treasury auction, interest rates went down. And so I think that the American people could expect President Trump to pick somebody who's going to help them, have cheaper car loans and easier access to mortgages at lower rates.
And you're probably watching. Unfortunately, I never, that's what was coming on. I really wanted to be here.
I knew you were really sick because
Tuesday.
I knew there was no way you
I
could
never
call in
sick at I don't get flu shots. I don't know. Probably should. But midnight, Monday night, brutal. There's just no way. And I woke up Ann and everything.
Well, because we had Besson on, I knew there was no
Did he say hi to Joe? Something like that?
He said he hopes you're feeling better.
Okay. I was scheduled off Wednesday and Friday.
Yeah.
I'm not a sick, wimpy person that doesn't get out of bed. I was scheduled off.
Yeah.
To make that clear to viewers. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, as I just said, told us last week he thinks there's a good chance that President Trump makes an announcement before Christmas.
Yeah, it was when Hassett said when that news leaked. It didn't leak.
I wish we knew. Yeah, he did. I wish we knew the top three. Who's your top three? Warsh is still in.
I think Warsh is.
I think the markets. Honestly, I think the markets would almost do better on the initial. At first blush, if it was worse.
Well, I think the market would like to be guaranteed of another rate cut or two.
Well, how bad?
But the problem becomes you feel like it's being run out of if it's no longer an independent Fed.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Is the market that, addicted to easy money at whatever the cost, and it's going to rally on that, or is it going to rally on someone that might really reform the Fed and be tough when you need to be tough?
I think the answer
be tight
is
when you.
I think that initially they want another rate cut or two, but I think they want somebody who is a strong independent Fed leader.
Or do they want someone?
You don't want a situation where inflation rears back up again.
Or do you want someone who goes to 1%, boom?
No, I don't think anybody wants that.
So who's left? Is it Warsh, Hassett, Waller, Bessent himself?
Bessent has said repeatedly he doesn't want to do that. So I would be shocked if it were actually Bessent.
Yeah, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
Seems like it's going to be Hassett, probably. One of the Kevins.
Safe money is right now?
The two Kevins. Kevin is the... I don't think we're allowed... Do you know that the name Kernen is dropped off the top 10?
Shocker.
Completely no one's...
Probably dropped off the top 1,000.
No one is naming their daughters Karen anymore. But Kevin is the male Karen, supposedly, right?
Really?
Yeah. Kevin. A Kevin, But I don't even think we're allowed to talk about what a Karen is, actually. But right. So let's
Probably not.
Okay. Never mind.
I just call the male versions Karen, too.
Yeah, so do I. If you look at my Twitter account, I get in trouble. People don't like that. They get mad. Call people Karen.
All right, bargain hunters looking for deals this Cyber Monday, which is today, and lots of consumers actually turning to AI for help. Adobe Analytics says that U.S. shoppers spent a record $11.8 billion online on Black Friday. That's up more than 9% from last year. According to MasterCard Spending Plus, e-commerce sales were up by 10.4%. MasterCard said overall spending, including or excluding autos, I should say, was up by 4.1% compared to last year. So still, e-commerce growing at a faster pace than you see in traditional bricks and mortar.
European plane giant Airbus says that the vast majority of about 6,000 A320 jets affected by a safety alert have now been fixed. Airbus said an examination of an October incident. This was a JetBlue plane, experienced a sudden drop in altitude. It revealed that intense solar radiation could corrupt important data related to the flight controls on the A320. Thank you for fixing that. But airlines have been able to update their software faster than expected. Airbus says fewer than 100 planes still require work.
You still look at that stock, it's off by about 7.8% because that's a kind of shocking story. People sat up, paid attention to this.
Yeah.
American said overnight that it had repaired all of its planes.
Let's rather be a gain. A sudden gain in altitude would be better than a.
Well, not if there's.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Neither one is. Something
Nothing
about,
sudden. When you're
anything sudden.
Sudden and unexpected, I guess, would be a thing. Sudden is one thing, but sudden and unexpected is different. But yeah, good news. But that stock's still under pressure today. In the meantime, the company that owns an Illinois data center that sparked a worldwide market problem on Friday says that it has beefed up temperature controls. Privately controlled CyrusOne told Bloomberg that it added additional redundancy to cooling systems at the facility, which is about 50 miles from Chicago. The massive amount of electronics in data centers can overheat if they're not properly cooled, and that was the issue on Friday. It led to one of the longest outages for exchange operator CME in years. Trading across stocks, bonds, futures, commodities, and currencies was halted. And it wasn't just overnight. It was while we were on Squawk Box 2, so continued right up to about 8:30 in the morning for some of those contracts. LSEG showed that the outage lasted more than 11 hours. A Bloomberg report said that the CME's disaster recovery plan calls for a move to a data center in the New York area, but that the exchange opted against switching to a backup facility because it believed that the outage would be brief.
It's Rick Reeder still
In the running? I always liked him as a name for that.
I like him, but I mean, BlackRock. Would Larry tell him you got to think about climate change?
I don't think Larry would tell him anything.
Why not?
Rick Reeder would be his own man.
You have to think about climate change before you cut rates. It's going to get cold in December. I'm so confused. Ice age.
Could have used some of that cold in the data center on Friday.
Yeah.
Open the doors.
It's supposed to be very cold
Yeah.
In December. But you know why it's going to be cold?
Climate change.
Global warming.
No, climate change. That's
Yeah,
why they changed
right.
Yeah.
It's going to be cold because it's warm. Here's the breaking news. Nvidia announcing a partnership with Synopsys to revolutionize the design and engineering of something called CUDA and other GPU accelerated computing, and revolutionizing the design. Synopsys is a leader in engineering solutions from silicon to systems, and it helps customers innovate AI-powered products.
CUDA is NVIDIA's proprietary parallel computing platform and programming stuff. It's that's a pretty big deal to hear innovations to CUDA coming.
And it's an expanded strategic partnership. So it's not NVIDIA invested, $2 billion at a purchase price of $414 a share into Synopsys. I don't know when that was. This expanded partnership will integrate the strengths engineering. In addition, I think that's new. In addition, NVIDIA invested into Synopsys $2 billion. You can see how Synopsys is reacting to this expanded partnership. Pretty nice move.
I mean, this is a little different than a lot of the other AI deals that we've talked about that seem circular.
Yeah, right.
This is something where these are two real companies working together to strengthen things that they've already done together at this point, too.
They'll be able to flesh all of the details out, because they do talk about exactly what it's going to allow, or what the goals are between the two companies. But it gets pretty arcane.
Cheese will be next.
Coming up on Squawk Pod, shopping local but thinking big. Owner of the Locavore store in New York, Caroline Weaver, only stocks locally made goods, but issues on a citywide and a global scale still affect her business.
All of my things are local, but almost none of those things are made entirely of American parts. For example, a lot of it is packaging. So much of the packaging that my vendors use does not come from America.
This is Squawk Pod. Here's Becky Quick.
The Locavore variety store here in New York City prides itself on stocking its shelves with locally sourced goods. It's one of many small businesses that help form the heart of the city's economy. Joining us right now is Caroline Weaver. She's the founder of the Locavore Guide. That's a directory to the city's independent businesses. She's also the owner of the Locavore variety store. And Caroline, thank you for coming in today. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about what locavore means. First of all, that's local carnivore. Basically, you're only consuming things that are made within 100 miles from where you are.
That's right. It's a term used to describe people who consume locally.
And what are you finding just in terms of this being a trend of more people looking for something like this?
I think currently people are a lot more conscious of where the goods that they buy on an everyday basis come from. And so my shop stands to demonstrate that local doesn't just mean cottage industry goods. It means actually manufactured things.
Now, what type of things do you sell?
Oh, we sell everything from hand-blown glass to toothpaste and wiffle ball. We sell nail clippers. We sell screwdrivers. It's truly almost everything.
And where do you find these things? Where'd you come up with the idea to begin with?
I have only ever been a shopkeeper. I used to own a stationery shop, and as a New Yorker, we have so many wonderful things that are made in our own backyards that people just don't know about. And I grew tired of ordering things online to be shipped to my apartment from Brooklyn, and I thought, how wonderful would it be to have a place where you could find all of these things in one store?
I would guess that maybe the tariffs are helping with that too. Maybe things that are made locally used to be more expensive than things made overseas and shipped here, but now with the tariffs, maybe that offsets some of that differential?
A little bit, and I think that the consumer perspective is changing a little bit. People are seeking out locally made goods because they're aware of the tariff situation. But even for me, all of my things are local, but almost none of those things are made entirely of American parts. And so for example, a lot of it is packaging. So much of the packaging that my vendors use does not come from America.
So what have you found with your vendors? Are they able, it's not just packaging, I would assume it's a lot of the other things that go into their goods too that they have to buy from overseas.
Yeah, and a lot of them are very smart and they stockpiled when they had the chance. And so I don't think we're seeing the full effects of those price increases quite yet. They were all preparing for a Christmas season, for relatively normal Christmas season. And so I don't know that we've seen the effects of that quite yet. My prices, if they have increased about 10 to 15%, but I'm not as immune to it as people assume I am.
Just to begin with, made locally, I would assume it costs more money than buying something from overseas traditionally?
It very often does. The cost of shipping things overseas, even without tariffs, sometimes makes it easier to manufacture locally, but I think there are a lot of misconceptions that local necessarily means more expensive. A lot of the brands that I sell, or all of them actually, are independently owned. They are also small businesses, and they're not padding their margins the same way that big businesses do because they don't have shareholders to pay. They don't have enormous marketing expenses, so it's just priced differently.
Go ahead.
Did you watch the election closely?
I did, yeah.
And?
The election here in New York City?
Yes.
And do you want to know who I voted for?
No, you don't need to tell me that, but things could change a little. You know, I'm torn. We had 8 years at de Blasio, and nothing really happened. I don't know about Eric Adams, but I would not want to be I wouldn't be as bullish as being a local sourcer in New York City with a communist or a social.
I feel differently. I think affordability and safety in New York City has so much to do with what is in our storefronts.
But the solutions to those two issues are solutions that have never worked in the history of the world.
Well, clearly whatever's happening right now also isn't working. So as a small business owner, I'm open to something new.
Well, capitalism isn't working. You think socialism might be something to try out?
I think something has to change, and it's a really, really challenging climate for independent retail and for small business owners right now. And I think a lot of us are fed up with the way that things have been working, and we are open to something new.
What are the biggest problems that you face as a small business owner?
We kind of are marginalized because we exist on the fringes of a lot of these capitalist systems. And with the tariff thing, a lot of what's happening for small businesses is that they're not able to get the goods that they need because manufacturers who are already stretched when it comes to the supply chain are prioritizing larger manufacturers. And so for small business, especially at Christmas time, during a time of economic volatility, if we can't get the inventory that we need to sell, to pay our rent, to pay our employees a living wage, to pay our health insurance expenses, we can't exist.
How was Small Business Saturday at your store or some of the others that you see around town?
In my store, it was great. We had a really busy weekend. I think Small Business Saturday should be either the weekend before or the weekend after because a lot of people aren't in town. But what we're seeing and what a lot of my other colleagues are seeing is that people are starting to shop earlier this year. We saw it start a full month earlier than what we're used to because I think consumers are a little bit anxious about supply, they're a little bit anxious about pricing, and they're trying to be strategic about their shopping.
Caroline, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Up next on Squawk Pod, Wharton professor Mohamed El-Erian addresses market and political failures of 2025, as well as the health of the economy this holiday season.
The consumer somehow keeps on going, but there's concern. There's concern about the labor market decoupling from GDP. Remember, this is just a demand transition to the productivity impact of AI.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to Squawk Pod from CNBC. Today with Joe Kernen and Becky Quick.
Stand by, Joe. His mic, cue.
You are watching Squawk Box on CNBC. I'm Joe Kernen, along with Becky Quick. Andrew's off today.
Joining us right now is Mohamed El-Erian from the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business. He's also Chief Economic Advisor at Allianz. And Mohamed, welcome. There have been some interesting trends in the market lately. What have you made of all these AI trends that looked so concerning 2 weeks ago and then looked pretty good last week?
I actually have been encouraged because I think that AI trade has become more differentiated. People have understood that vertical integration matters. They have understood that multiple sources of revenues matter. So we're starting to see AI being much more fundamentally driven than hype driven.
Explain that. I don't get that, because it seems like every time there's a deal, both companies tend to go up, whatever two companies are there. How are we differentiating between what works and what doesn't?
So let's start with Gemini. I think Gemini 3 was a significant change in the landscape. I think it made people realize that if you are going to be a winner in this arms race, because it is an arms race, you have to have certain attributes that not all the companies have. So you started seeing Google outperform other companies. Now you're starting to see much more consideration of how you're funding yourself. Are you funding yourself mainly from revenue, or are you funding yourself from circular financing? That's all good, because you didn't want the bubble phase to get carried away too much, because otherwise there would have been a lot more damage than there would be otherwise.
The idea of data centers being pretty fully booked at this point. I heard one person describing this as saying we're not in the same situation we were back with Lucent or Cisco or some of those companies back in the early days of the last big tech bubble, because these data centers are still fully booked. So you're not building out empty demand at this point.
Correct, and there's a perception that maybe even a waiting list, if you like, for use of these data centers. I think it's so good that we're having them now, because if we didn't have that on the demand side, if we didn't have AI-related activities drive GDP, we'd be talking about stall speed, because the rest of the economy is having a harder time. So we have this transition. Is that because
those resources have been all devoted to AI, and they would be resources that could be deployed somewhere else if it weren't for that?
No, I think it's because AI has proven to be such a powerful driver. And on the other side, we're dealing with legacy. We've talked a lot about affordability. The consumer somehow keeps on going, but there's concern. There's concern about the labor market decoupling from GDP, so there's concern about the labor market on there. But if it weren't for AI related, we would be talking about stall speed. So it's a really good thing. And remember, this is just a demand transition to the productivity impact of AI.
You think about some of the stocks, though, that have been front and center for this, those companies like a Microsoft, so many of these companies that for a very long time, Oracle and others, that were able to bring in a lot of profitability because they did not have a lot of capex that they were spending. You know, these were very asset-light companies. That's not the case with this. Do you think the profitability will follow the money that's being spent here?
I do, but a lot will depend on adoption. So what do we always talk about? We're fascinated by those who are working on AI, the builders, the exciting new foundational models. But we don't talk enough, Becky, about those working with AI. And that's going to be critical, because adoption is going to be important. If you step back, we do need an adoption policy. We don't have that right now. And that's why we risk falling behind China.
Accenture, I think, is number 3 on the S&P 500 list of gainers this morning. It's up pretty sharply after announcing a deal with OpenAI that it's going to be using its ChatGPT with its clients, with kind of putting that out there so that they can get using them and seeing that as an enterprise book. Yeah, it's up by about 2.8% right now. That's all fine and well, but when does the disintermediation show up in terms of, as Joe pointed out, do you need a consultant to put you in touch with ChatGPT, or are these just going to be tools that make them more efficient at their work?
You will need, I mean, Accenture is a perfect example of a company that has understood. So it talks about reinventors, it's reinventing itself. It talks about it having to upscale its own labor force so that it could help others. And I think Julie Sweet, the CEO, is leading in a very visionary manner. If you talk to others, you'll find a wide dispersion. There are those who are ready to adopt. There are those who say our databases don't speak to each other. We can't even go anywhere near that. So you're going to need help with a lot of the distribution when it comes to adoption. And I think Accenture has taken the lead on this, because it has understood that the first step is to reinvent yourself. And that's exactly what they've done.
So what are you watching outside of this AI trade? Obviously, that's leading the market, has been for a while. But there's a lot of other things that are happening, Federal Reserve and beyond.
We are captivated right now, understandably, by 2 things. will they cut this month or not? And who will be the next Fed chair? As important is how will this Fed be reformed? This Fed went to sleep. Yes, we made mistakes. Yes, we have to talk about our forecasting. We have to think about scenario analyses, not point estimates. We have got to be better at the supply side, and most importantly, the compliance culture has to improve. So there's a lot of things that we have to focus on the Fed because it's so central to our economic well-being.
And that will play out over what, the next year? Or you think this is a much longer term?
So I think what the Secretary said on your show last week was perfect, is we don't need a play-by-play Fed. We need the Fed to cool it. We need the Fed to step back and take a bigger sort of visionary view. And we need reforms. We desperately need reforms. And I think all 5 on the short list are committed to reforming that institution, which is critical not just for the US, but for the global economy.
Is there a point where the market gets uncomfortable with reform, or the market, you think, is clamoring for it at this point?
I think the market right now is focused, honestly, on will they cut in December and who is going to be the Fed chair. There will come a time when when they'll go from tactical to strategic, and these things will matter. It is almost absurd that in the last month, the probability of a December cut has gone from 90% to 30%.
It back up to 86 or 87.
90.
Is it 90 this morning? Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, this should not happen. The whole point of forward guidance is predictability and stability. So there is something wrong that has to be addressed. The rest of the world looks at this and says, wait a minute, the Fed is at the core of the system, and there's so much volatility in what they expect they're going to do in a few weeks. What's going on here?
How do we get away I'm still thinking about this last interview. If 51% of people under 30 think socialism is a preferable alternative to capitalism, how does that work itself out as time goes by? Does it? You saw what happened in New York, and obviously there's issues that we're well aware of. It's just the solutions that we know have some serious adverse consequences, at least historically, from what we've seen, if we head down that road.
So one of the things I've been doing, although I wasn't allowed to do it on Thursday at Thanksgiving, is ask people, who did you vote for and why? And what you hear from the young people over and over again is what you heard in the previous interview, is somehow the system doesn't work. So if you ask the question, why does the system doesn't work, is because we didn't pay enough attention to not just what is necessary, which is market-based capitalism, but was it necessary and sufficient, which is also to recognize that there are market failures, there are institutional failures that
usually tied to government intervention.
There are institutional failures. That's government failure. But there are also market failures. There's also market failures.
If there weren't failures, there can't be any winners, right?
I think there can be winners. What happens to the failures is that if you don't address the failures, the people who are left out come back and undermine the whole system. The UK is a perfect example. It makes no sense for the UK to exit the European Union, your biggest trading partner, and yet all you needed to say to people is regain control. This notion of somehow you've been left behind and you can regain control. So, Joe, it is about addressing...
What kind of market failures are you talking about?
So we have monopoly power that has to be addressed, and that is something the administration is focused on. We've got to also look at how to make sure that the productivity promise that's ahead of us is something that is offered by many. So there's infrastructure issues.
Well, so your contention is that the market failure of capitalism is that we aren't addressing monopoly issues effectively enough?
My contention is that unless you address institutional failure, which include government failure and market failures.
But what type of market failures are you talking about? What are you referring to?
Where competition is not fair. That's simple. Where that
happens a lot, you think?
I think it happens quite a bit.
I mean, look at the way our economy is performed versus the rest of the world. And you don't see a vibrant, strong...
The rest of the world is a mess. I mean, if you look to at Europe, okay, you promise Europe an 80-20. 80 is going to be good, 20 is going to be bad. Here, people focus on the 80 and want to unleash the 80. There, all they care about is the 20, and they regulate away the 80. So I don't want... Comparing us with the rest of the world is really... It's like comparing the Jets...
But you look at technology, you look at AI, you look at any of the things that, you look at even healthcare, any of the things, it's expensive, but innovation and everything else,
but it comes back to affordability, and that becomes if they feel like the system's failing them when they can't buy a house, when they can't buy a car, when they can't.
The 21.5% total inflation from the Biden administration's 4 years is why we have an affordability
Correct.
issue.
And the key to affordability is going to be income. Remember, affordability is the price level, and people somehow think the price level is going to come down. It's not. It's going to come down on
wages got to go up.
And then it's income. Income's got to go up.
Right.
And I think that is...
It is again, at least, and real wages are going up again
is now,
at this point.
Mohamed, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And that's the pod for today. Thanks for starting your week and your month with us. Happy December. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Tune in weekday mornings on CNBC at 6 Eastern to get the smartest takes and analysis from our TV show right into your ears. Follow Squawk Pod wherever you get your podcasts. Have a great Monday. We'll meet you right back here tomorrow.
And we are clear. Thanks, guys.